So I wrote Edward, Edwards, Edward, Edward, his grandfather's Edward James, his father's Edward James, his brother's Edward James, and our nephew's Edward James. 4 Edwards.
Hey everybody, it's Holly Burns. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Consciousness Coaching number 11. There's no such thing as a secret thought. So instead of just telling you the client story, today I'm going to actually feature my actual client and friend, Kelsey Guy, and we're going to discuss what happened to us that day that brought us together, that proved to both of us that our secret thoughts are never secret from the universe, and either are yours. So today I welcome my guest, Kelsey Guy, founder of Soulstream Z, an ecosystem devoted to consciousness, energy, awareness, personal transformation, and multi-dimensional exploration. Her website is soulstreamz.com, just the letter Z, soulstreamz.com, and I will have that in the description. This video was recorded back in 2022, actually, and we're going to make an update video, so stay tuned for part 2. I did not know how to edit videos when I made the recording, and so I've been getting back to my old material. She has quite the story to tell. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Kelsey.
Thank you so much, Holly, for having me.
It's a pleasure having you here today. So this story is about how you don't even know when you're in your flow sometimes when you're in it. And both of us were in our flow that day. And we had no idea our flow was bringing us to an intersection of each other. But yet, when we talked about it afterwards, we could see so much how it did. So our thoughts brought us together that day. I was at the Walmart in my local town, not having any idea that Kelsey even moved up here. And I was, just by chance, I was going down the aisle with the toothpaste, and I thought, well, you know, I guess I'll just get this one last thing of toothpaste because I had forgotten my toothpaste with my son's groceries about a few days before that. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll just buy some new toothpaste because who knows when I'm going to hook up with him again. So I'm just going to grab some new toothpaste. And I go down the toothpaste aisle and I take a left and bam, I'm face to face with Kelsey. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And she's like, what are you doing here?
Oh gosh. So it is deep. That's the thing. And there are so many fine-tuning details that go into it. And I think it's funny too and noteworthy that you say that it was an errand or a thing that you forgot a few days before. Because for me, this was so monumental the few days before leading up to this. So ultimately for me, I was in a pinch that day and I didn't know what to do. And days leading up to that, I was feeling just this sense of worry and just, I couldn't really put my finger on it if I needed to right at this moment. But ultimately that day, I did not know what to do. And I typically wake up each day and just am like, okay, what am I I sit on the edge of the bed, like, what am I meant to accomplish? And just kind of go with the flow. So I'm going with the flow and my flow kept getting disrupted. And my 8-month-old, yesterday, 8-month-old, and she was just a few months at the time, she had not taken a nap. So I just hopped in the car and I was driving solely for the purpose of her taking a nap. And then I thought to myself, oh, I'm going to go get dog bones. So I end up going to the Von Hansens in Elk River, which is, I'm new to this neighborhood. I don't really know where things are. And funny thing is, little tidbit, I went to the Walmart parking lot before I went to the Von Hansens to get dog bones. And I thought, no, I'm just not ready to go into Walmart and face Walmart. I think you know how that feels sometimes. So I go to get the dog bones and I come back to Walmart and I'm like, there's really nothing I need in the store, but I'm trying to kill time and do something. And so then I'm like, I need some me time. And I told myself, I'm not going to use my cell phone during this Walmart time. I'm going to try to be whole. And the first thing I do when I walk in the door is think to text my husband, oh, did we get allergy medicine or something for the kids? And so I thought, no, I'm not going to use my phone because I said, well, what do? I pull out my phone and I'm texting within 2 seconds of entering the store. And then I'm like, I'm standing in the aisle waiting for him to respond. And I'm like, I'm just going to continue along and get this Walmart journey done. And I turned the corner and there you are, Holly. And it was it was such a monumental moment in it was so monumental that I saw you in that exact moment. And the moments leading up to that were just insane. I mean, really, there is no coincidence. And that was a true example of how the universe led us to each other that day. And I tell people about this, and it excites me still to this day because it was so real and it was so powerful.
We had a little mini session right there in the Walmart aisle.
Yes, yes.
I'm like,
Which was even more great.
I know. It's like I'm telling her, I'm like talking to you going, oh my God, Kelsey, are you kidding me? I have thought about you constantly for the last how long now, because I was so excited for Kelsey, because when I met Kelsey, she had a daughter and she worked 3 jobs. You were like my hero. And then she got a better job, and then she got down to 2 jobs. And then she hooked up with this wonderful guy. And I see her on Facebook. I'm like, I'm so happy for her. And so I was thinking these thoughts to you over and over and over again, like, she's doing it. Look at her. She's getting her dream. And so I watched this journey, and then bam, she's having another baby with him and getting married. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like her dream is coming true. And I'm so thrilled for you. And so bam, there you are in front of me, because the universe is like, well, you ordered up Kelsey, didn't you? You've been like ordering me up, talking to Kelsey, haven't you? I'm like, I've been talking to you in my thoughts for like 2 years straight, having these conversations with you in my mind.
It really was a time too where, yeah, I woke up that morning, and I don't even know if you know this, but that morning was so desperate for a reading or something that I actually had scheduled healing with the lady that did my Reiki master certification, like her partner. And I kept thinking to myself, my God, how can I possibly wait? I think it was 2 months for this healing. And that very day I ran into you at Walmart. I really couldn't believe it.
That's freaking awesome.
And that's what makes it so monumental too, because it was the signal I was sending out to the universe. I mean, it was a cry for desperate help. The growth, Holly, that has happened from the time that you ran into me at Walmart, you restored and renewed that.
We talked for like a half hour. So we actually did get a lot done right there in the aisle.
Yeah. Yes.
Luckily, it was like, it's the back wall back in the pharmaceutical section. It was a weekday, so like nobody was there, but just us. I have the picture of us from that day. There's us from that day at the Walmart on the back. You could see the pharmaceutical thing, and her little 6-month-old daughter at the time, Peach. There she is. How cute she was. Such a good girl. Oh, that was so fun.
That weight was lifted. I walked out. I was like smiling. I was going through the store and I was like smiling to everybody. And I felt like that weight was lifted. I think because, it seems like such a coincidence as far as running into you at Walmart that morning. I honestly was praying for some sense of guidance. I needed something that day. There's no reason I should have gotten in the car and driven and gone to run those errands. I had no reason to. And so it's just a really special, it's something I will remember honestly for the rest of my life. I want to dial back as to how I met you and when I met you too. Then it would have been 2016. And that was at a time in my life when, full disclosure, I left work one day to take a lunch break. And I just I went back to work, but I left and took a longer lunch break that day. I was at a dead end point in my life. I felt like I wasn't connected. Yes, I was working 3 jobs, but I was a body in motion. I wasn't being thoughtful in my decisions, and I was working to the grind and working to the bone and not doing anything for myself. I was doing all the things that my body doesn't do well with. And I needed to just find something to help pull me out of this rut. And I kept having dead end relationships, and I had written off dating altogether, because dating as a single parent, you have a different vision of I don't know, your kids are your top priority. And I think a lot of people in the dating world don't respect that. And so anyways, when I met you in 2016, I was at a super vulnerable point in my life. I was at a low point in my life. And I hopped in my car one day, Holly. I hopped in my car one day, left my job in the middle of the day, and again, went aimlessly driving. And I drove to Dinkytown, of all places. I don't even know why I drove the heck to Dinkytown, but I did. I drove to Dinkytown, I think in hopes. I just went where I felt drawn to in a time that I shouldn't have been anywhere but work. And I ended up getting like a quick, like probably 6 to 12 minute reading in the basement of Magus Books. And I remember that was a turning point too of setting my intentions, because the reading was so spot on and it was so quick, but it was so deep, and it was a good foundational point for getting me started for the things I wanted to manifest in the future. And so I think ultimately meeting you in 2016 and then having this come back full circle is huge. And then moving to this area and not, I haven't disclosed where I've moved to really on any social media platform. How would you know? And I'm talking, we're like 45 minutes difference from where we originally were located. So I think, yeah, just meeting you back in 2016 at a really monumental point in my life. I will say it did take a couple of years to like find the right guy, and I ended up finding him at a funeral of all places. Is a really good friend of mine from high school, same group of friends, and we just lost touch after high school and reconnected at a funeral. And oh boy, I could write a book on that whole thing. But in 2016 or 17, it might have been you, Holly, but it was at this turning point in my life. Somebody had encouraged that I go home and just write down exactly what I envision my future partner to look like, to feel like, to do, like everything that you envision in that partner, just write that down. And in 2016 or 2017, in a notebook, I wrote all this chicken scratch of like, it had to have been 25, 35 things in all. I wanted taller than me, older than me. I mean, it was really like petty stuff, but then some serious stuff, independent, has man hands, like all these goofy little things. And it just so happens that my now husband checks every single one of those boxes.
Yeah.
And that was 3.5 years, maybe 3 years before I reconnected with him. So just setting that intention of truly what I wanted in my future partner. And the reason I was getting these dead end relationships is because I was bringing in dead end energy with the drinking and the smoking and hanging out in bars. Like that wasn't the place I wanted to be, and that's not the place that I was going to shine. And that's where I was when I met you in 2016. I mean, it was not a good time in my life. And so I was glad to have been naturally pulled from that. And that was a good foundational piece.
Yeah. So awesome.
Yeah.
Always stood out to me as one of my exclamation point people. It was such an amazing time.
Yeah.
Yes, that is just so cool. You've always been a standout to me too, because I mean, I had people helping me when I started there as well. I mean, I had no idea where my life was going to go either. And I was at a low point too, which is probably why we hooked up, because actually that was the lowest point in my life. Thank God that those guys gave me the job that they gave me. That was pretty much starting from absolute zero. The elders asked me to start my entire life over. It was absolutely my most difficult time in my life. I will never forget that either. And I'll never forget that night when we did the reading and we were talking about, where's your guy? And the elders were saying, he's coming. And we had no idea if he really was or where he was going to come, but the elders were always real adamant from the time I met you, he's coming, he's going to be here. And I don't say that if I'm not getting that for an answer. I don't just generically tell my clients he's coming. I only say what they say, and they said he was coming. And here you are. It's a good example that you can have everything you want and still be at a low point as well, because, there you were again at another low point. And so you were sending out major prana. The elders said they wanted to talk about the physics behind that thought process, because you were like, I need help now. And that's called prana. That prana energy moves way faster than regular energy thoughts do. And it gets right directly directly to the answer. And so the answer pops up, which was intersected with me at Walmart in the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really cool to learn and just be able to see those things. And the spirit guides were saying also, like when you met James and when you and I met that day when you're randomly driving around, and like I randomly found out about the job at Magus Books as well. Nothing's random. And so they want to also talk about the spirit guides behind the scenes of all that. Because when you said, when people say like, I don't know why I just blah, blah, blah. I don't know why I was just randomly doing that. You're not. You're downloading guidance that you don't really realize is your guidance, because they're very good at masking just behind your own thoughts in your consciousness. So the spirit guides, I read this really cool book. It's Your Soul's Plan or Soul Agreements. Both of those are amazing books. And they talk about the spirit guides behind the scene. They go under hypnosis and the people talking with their spirit guides. The spirit guides talk about, well, in this instance, we had to change. It's like a big chess game. Your life's like a big chessboard. And you have all these parameters, all these coordinations to meet people and have events happen. And then we make a choice, and then they make the next move based on our choice we just made. And sometimes we'll make a surprise choice that wasn't in our pre-board from 3 weeks ago. We change it, and they scramble, and they reline up all the intersections and the people so that we can keep on the path. The spirit guides are behind the scenes giving you those nudges. Your higher self is behind the scenes giving you those nudges, telling you, just drive here, just drive there. And when we release our resistance to that, and we allow ourselves to be led around like that, that's our flow. That is the perfect state of mind. That was a prime example of you creating the trajectory you wanted and staying up on your higher frequency, but not knowing how to do it, but doing it anyway.
Exactly.
So A plus 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 plus. Yeah.
I think just again, the manifesting your vision and what you want and the importance of that. I always chuckle anytime the dog pees in the house, because I continuously think that I'm the one that manifests that, because I get so fixated on it. And you told me one of the times that I saw you're like, stop expecting him to do it. And I think that's a monumental thing too, because if you set those expectations and you're constantly thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to be in the house, he's going to be in the house, he's going to be in the house. Well, of course he's going to be in the house. You're manifesting that. And so just the power behind the intentions of your thoughts, and how much growth I've had since 2016 when I met you and to now, the growth in that specifically is monumental. Once you take the time, you really start to see that those people in dead end situations are manifesting that for themselves. The growth that I've had with that as my mindset is monumental. And when things go awry, you dial back and then you realize, oh, it's because I'm manifesting that thought. And it really is the power of, like, you choose happiness or you choose to be miserable. And the foundation that you laid, even in a few cards on the table, that shifted the entire, now I'm in this beautiful home with a husband that I love, and we're growing our family and we're building a really freaking strong foundation. And it didn't come from working 3 jobs. Like, it came from completely shifting my thought and looking to see what can be manifested from even a simple decision to get your butt in the car one day and go to Walmart. That's the coolest part about it.
I couldn't have said any of that better myself. That was so profound. Wow. So see, that's why you're one of my exclamation point people in my life, because you just said the key right there. You are so good at seeing your thoughts and what you're doing with them. You just took the ball and ran. That's really amazing. Most people don't get that quickly. Most people do not.
I know that's what I want to do. And I've known that for so many years, and I've put it off. I think you nailed it before, because of fear of judgment, fear of the unknown and what you're capable of, and the trust and there's a lot of fear, but finally closing some of those negative doors and opening others that are like, I'm not saying everything's all pansies and roses and daisies and whatnot.
Right. It's not going to be for any of us unless we're in perfect alignment 100% of the time, which we are.
Exactly. But, and I think before I was working in corporate America, and now I'm doing something that's more correlated with my beliefs. Following my gut as to what I'm meant to be doing is always falling back to helping others. And and you and I have that in common. And so it'll be, I mean, to be continued, really. I don't consider myself wise. Maybe when I'm 90 and have lived, a full life, it's like you feel strongly that the wisdom really does come from within and above. And or,
Is that right? It's all
yeah.
downloads. How much is your own thoughts? Just try to figure it out. You know what? Not much. I mean, seriously, like,
Yeah.
not much. Not much of your new ideas that you get and where to take action and how to take action is originated from your own mind. It's like all day long you're working in tandem with your own higher consciousness and you're having conversations with yourself. And you have no idea that you're doing that. And that's how we operate.
And when the ego gets involved, that's when you are going to start manifesting all those things that you don't want. The inner voice that you have in your day to day, and taking the breaks and listen to it before acting or talking. You have really guided me into the foundation of trusting that. When you don't trust it and you second guess it, good luck.
Absolutely. That's the ego second guessing, that is so true. I think that one of the key lessons is taking time to learn to discern between your higher consciousness's voice and your spirit guides telling you, the all-knowing realm talking to you, or your ego mind, and knowing which one to listen to so you don't get distracted and dissuade and get pulled off course. Absolutely. That's huge. That's why you changed everything you changed, because you just, after 2016, you just went, okay. And so, like, what kind of got the ball rolling in that direction? What caused you to?
Yeah, I think it started with the visualization and really sitting down. I'm not one to be in a quiet place. So when people say to go meditate, I'm not the person that goes and sits in a quiet area. I am cooking or baking or gardening or doing laundry or something mundane. It's also taking a shower. That's a time where I'm probably at my most heightened, where I get the most information. I can let go and I don't have to be feeding or doing anything else in that moment. So I think just visualization was how I really started. I wanted to get the journaling. Also, that was huge for me. I was just telling my husband the other day, being crystal clear in your vision of what you want to accomplish. That's what got me, again, sitting down in my notebook and writing, okay, this is exactly what I want in my husband. Who writes down man hands? Okay, like honestly, if I went out on a date with a guy and he had like pretty hands, I'd be like, no. And I'm not that shallow, but I knew from the list that I wrote down intuitively and listening to my spirit guides and whoever that higher power is for you or for me. I wrote down, if you don't have man hands, I'm sorry, you're not for me. And that's ridiculous, but it's the truth. And so I knew what to look for. And I don't think that makes me a shallow person. I think it makes me know exactly what I want, and I'm not going to settle for less because I want to be happy. I told my daughter at breakfast this morning, a happy house starts with a happy mom. And right now we're working really hard with the 9-year-old to visualize happiness and choose happy, because oftentimes she gets upset about most simple things of brushing teeth, basic grooming, and it's just, it's so dramatic. And so we're trying to say, hey, like, trust your gut, just move on. That's how it started for me, Holly. And that's and being absolutely crystal, I can't stress that enough. Being crystal clear in your vision is going to get you what you want. Because I was crystal clear, I wasn't settling for less. And that was to a lot of people's dismay, but I trusted my intuition, and I jeopardized a lot of relationships to trust my intuition. And it's come back full circle now. But it took a lot of stepping out of my comfort zone to get to this place. And I have so much more room for growth in the next 33 years. And I can't wait, because I have a really clear, I'm just continuing to have a clear vision of what I foresee happening for our future. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It is huge and fast. And your momentum that you have with James now, you two together are just gonna fly into great abundance. You're already well on your way. So that's such an example as you keep going even more and more. like you said, I think you should write a book because your story is going to be really influential. You could have chosen the other one. You could have stayed drinking. You could have stayed dating really horrible matches for you for the rest of your life. And you would have never found him. You'd still be single right now. You'd still be wondering where he is. And you would be totally not happy. And then you'd say, well, he's not there for me. And the reason why I don't have him is because I guess there's nobody there for me. Okay, like a lot of people do that. But you erased that future and jumped onto the other one. That when you said, I'm 33 years old and I haven't accomplished anything in my life yet I want to do yet, the elders want to tell you back, their idea of you accomplishing your plans for yourself is different from your idea of accomplishing what you wanted to accomplish for yourself.
Okay.
You absolutely did, because they usually divide people's lives into thirds. And it is usually the first 30 years of your life is about the first third of your life.
Interesting.
And for most people, that's the developmental third of their life. Most of my clients work on setting up themselves for the last 2/3 of their life in that first third of their life. And they said that's what you were doing. You were becoming who you had to become. You were going through the experiences you had to go through to build the foundation. And they said you did it perfectly. You did exactly like you had planned. Everything was all absolutely exactly how it was supposed to be.
Okay.
So they said now physical accomplishments, yes, those are coming in the next 2/3 of, your tangible goals and, the levels of things you want to do with the earthly things, they said. But consciousness wise, they said consciousness wise, you're right on track. They also said that when you're talking about the list for the guy that you wanted, and you put the man hands on there, and you were saying that might seem shallow to some people, but I just knew it had to be there. They said back to you, well, how do you think you got the list in the first place? Okay, he was already there in your future. James is already there. They don't live in time and space, so they were telling you all about him, and you were downloading that onto your list. Because they knew he was there. They knew everything about him, so they're like, you were just pre-describing the specific person for you.
That's interesting. It's so I even wrote his career on there. I wrote firefighter, and he's
Get
a
out!
firefighter. Oh, I'm serious.
You
Dead
wrote a
serious.
career. You are an amazing psychic. I mean, you have amazing psychic abilities.
Well, and the last thing, another thing, I wrote down 2 names on the thing, but I knew the name. I knew writing it down, Holly, was not the name of my future partner, but I have this. I wrote down Edward.
I was just thinking I got to see the list pretty soon.
Yeah, I wrote down Edward, and then I crossed it, or I think I underlined it or crossed it off, and then I put Edwards with an S, and then I crossed that off, and then I wrote Edward. So I wrote Edward, his grandfather's Edward James, his father's Edward James, his brother's Edward James, and our nephew's Edward James. 4 Edwards. And I wrote 4 Edwards on the piece of paper back in circa 2016, 2017. 4 Edwards. That's the only name I wrote on. I wrote another name too, but it could be like a future kid or something. I don't know what that name was yet, but there's one other name on there, but no, 4 Edwards was the only other name. And that's the way I knew when I found out there were 4 generations of Edward James on that side. I knew right then and there that was him. And I also knew because of his laugh. I knew because of the way he laughed. The way that it made me feel was so different than the way that anybody else in this world has ever made me laugh. And that's when I knew. And that's so interesting. And that makes perfect sense because I described him in this piece of paper.
Yeah.
Without question. Yeah.
This is really cool because, first of all, you're teaching other people through this story to let go and allow their extra senses to kick in. Everybody's psychic and nobody knows what it is. They think it's predicting the future. It is basically stepping into the consciousness that we're all supposed to be using every day, all day long. And man, are you good at it. You just tuned right in. You basically just tuned right into your future destiny, downloaded at that moment and wrote it down. And what a good channeler you are. I also want to point out that the frequency you're on, when you're writing down Edward, the reason why they gave you Edward was just a little test for the consciousness, because they could have said James. And people are like, well, Edward wasn't right. He wasn't Edward, right? That's some people's frequency. They're going to be, that was wrong. But you found the correlation because you stayed on a high enough frequency to not judge it and you didn't question it. That's what people need to do. Stay up there. Don't jump back down. when you question it, you jump back down, but you went up there and stayed there, and it was right. They give you encrypted information. People, they're always just pulling you up to a higher level of you with the information. So you have to stay open to why are they telling you that? And they're never going to just give you absolute plain as day yes, no answers. Most of the time they don't. They don't to me anyway.
No.
So
And I know this is what I want to do. So I can't wait. I've got big things in store up here. So it's now just putting them out to fruition. So yeah.
That's right. Oh, this is so great. So we're definitely going to hook up when we feel it's in our flow. You're going to go do your stuff, and then we're going to come back around. And thank you everybody who listened to the end. And thank you so much, Kelsey, for your time. This is just phenomenal, and I just can't wait to put it out there. So thank you again so much.
Yes, thanks for having me, Holly.